Good afternoon and welcome to the Asian Midday Market Watch. Our guest today is Lee Kian Soon, uh, CEO of Astral Asset Management out of Singapore. Asian Midday Market Watch is powered by our Rajhi Bank. Kian Soon, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
Now, before we get your insights, Kian Soon, let's take a look and see how crypto markets are performing, and then we'll take a look at regional stock markets. Now, Bitcoin is at 45,330. It's down 3.13%. Ethereum is at 3,352.92. It's down 4.9%. Now, across the region, we begin with the SGX. The SGX is at 3,426.28. It's down 0.54%. The KLSC is at 1,601.85. It's up 0.32%. Shanghai is at 3,273.17. It's down 0.29%. The ASX All Ordinaries is at 7,787.6. It's down 0.58%. The Nikkei is at 27,348. It's down 1.58%. The Hang Seng is at 22,148.5. It's down 1.58%. And rounding up the numbers, we've got the Kospi, which is at 2,737.15. It's down 0.80%. Now, Kian Soon, what's your view on how markets have performed this morning?
I think this morning the market has reacted to what some of the Fed officials have said last night. Basically, they were looking into, shrinking the balance sheets as early as May this year. I think this again triggered the markets in terms of understanding that the shrinking of the balance sheet as well as interest rates hikes are coming, and I think this is a reaction that Fed is reacting to the rising inflationary pressures that we've seen in United States.
Yeah, and so as a result of that, obviously the 10-year Treasury rate rose to its highest level since May 2019, hitting 2.562 before settling at 2.55. Tech stocks in the US also took a battering, and then obviously we had this spill this morning as well with technology stocks in the Asia Pacific region. Now, stagflation is really a worry that is permeating across investors' minds now. But Europe has peculiar stagflation worries. Could you, Kian Soon, enlighten us on some of those worries and the peculiarities for Europe?
I think the specifics for Europe is there's always a concern about how they're going to recover from COVID-19, and the economy has not been performing well since the pandemic. And coupled with the fact that we are seeing right after the global pandemic, as they are on their path to recovery, the Russia-Ukraine situation has created a huge stress on their energy supplies. Literally around 40% of natural gas comes from Russia, and that drives out their energy prices, and therefore you have a perfect storm of a slower economic growth as well as high inflationary pressure as a result of shortage of energy supplies and rising costs.
Now, Kian Soon, there's another factor that I think many of us are not clear about: the risk of the Russian bond defaults. What sort of impact is that going to have on bond markets in Europe?
I think the markets have been talking about this since middle of March when all the sanctions came in, and there was a concern about the fact that the Russians will not be able to pay back the international bonds in US dollars or euros, and the time passed by. The middle of March payment was made, and then by this month, same concerns again emerged. But I'd like to highlight here that if you mark the Russian bonds and credits are already marked at default. So the current market size is just around 120, maybe 130 billion dollars, and therefore the market is not expecting a contingent, i.e., if the Russians bonds goes into default, it's going to cause trigger a series of other events, credit events. So it looks pretty self-contained for the moment, and hence even the IMF and the world economic bodies have highlighted that this is likely going to be a contained and isolated event. Obviously, if you are a Russian bond investors and fund, you're not going to be very happy. But on the other hand, if you are not operating in these specific sectors, there's unlikely to be a contagion.
So, and that's an interesting perspective, because many of us were concerned about that, not realizing that essentially the overall impact may be far less than we envisioned. But Kian Soon, from an Asian investor and Asian market perspective, what are the risks that you're worrying about right now?
I think if you are looking at Northeast Asia, the everybody's eyes and all the investors' concern is primarily how China is going to deal with COVID-19. We've seen the cases surging for a couple of weeks, and there are, as part of their dynamic zero COVID policy, they have locked down cities like Shenzhen, followed by Shanghai. I think if you are doing this for short durations, the citizens could basically endure, and if the case numbers come down and life goes back to normal, it's okay. But if you have such prolonged lockdowns, over months, and the situation doesn't improve, I think the whole world will be watching how China is going to cope, as well as going to react to these new developments for their pandemic situation.
And also then it has global implications as well, particularly in the supply chain and obviously prices across the globe.
Currently, I think what we have seen as announced today is the PMI numbers in China has all come below the forecast numbers. This is expected because their own consumers are not even having the opportunities to spend money, or as long as they are in a lockdown situation. So for the global supplies, their factories, they try to keep it open as long as possible. And if the factories are not allowed to operate for prolonged timing, then we would see a rise in prices, as well as shortage in the global supplies. In particular, China being a manufacturing hub for the whole world, we are likely going to see longer term implications.
Now, Kian Soon, as always, thank you very much for your insights and for coming on the show.
You're most welcome.
Now, we've been speaking to Lee Kian Soon, CEO of Astral Asset Management in Singapore, on Biztech's Asian Midday Market Watch, powered by Rajhi Bank, Malaysia. I'm Brian Fernandez. This video will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as Rajhi Bank Malaysia's social media platforms. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thank you very much for tuning in.